One of the things I wanted to go back, and I just want to make sure that we had an opportunity to touch on it. I was in New York City during 2000, during 9/11. What were the impacts, if any, up here to the chapter, to how we held on to data, the technical impacts, the security impacts, the just the people impacts during your presidency?
Well, 2011, you're talking about 9/11, right? Yeah, 2001, yeah. That actually happened, and I remember I was in Philadelphia at the time when that all happened.
Okay.
Impact of the chapter, I don't recall there being much of an impact. I mean, obviously it was very shocking and everything.
But we're far enough away.
Yeah, but actually the interesting story because as a result of 9/11, New York City started a project to consolidate their communication systems. I think you probably are aware, as most people are, that one of the problems with 9/11 was the police, fire department, the ambulance, they couldn't talk to each other because they're all on different communication systems, and it was a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I do remember that.
yeah. So what happened was right afterwards, 2002, they started a project to consolidate communications so it'd be seamless across all the different emergency responders. And I got involved in that only because they needed an expert in earned value because the guy they brought in to run this thing was some ex-military guy. And he came from the Department of Defense and he said, we're using earned value because the Department of Defense uses earned value.
Right.
And nobody knew what it was. And they talked to Pace University in New York City and said,
Yeah.
well, do you know somebody who knows earned value? And they said, yeah, we actually have a person, Joe Lukas. He's working with us, doing some teaching at night for us. He can do it for you. So I went in and actually worked with them, training and consulting to get them up to speed on adding earned value to that entire program.
Wow.
Pretty interesting.
Wow.
I actually, again, spent a lot of time in New York City. So, and I saw the World Trade Center literally a few months after that happened. And I was there when they were taking the whole thing down and apart, watching what was going on. And it was pretty heartbreaking to see the devastation.
And then you were part of the rebuild.
Well, part of the communications part, not the building itself, nothing to do
Not
with
the building, not the construction, but the rebuild of spirit, the rebuild of confidence back in our systems,
Yeah,
the rebuild of connecting people with people again,
yep,
and knowing that people can connect. Being there myself, I remember cell phones stopped working. They were jammed. The lines were jammed. The signals were jammed because so many people were on their cell phones at the same exact time trying to figure it out.
yep.
So you went and found the person with the radio.
Well, the one thing I remember about that whole thing, again, I was with an engineering company at the time, Bergman Associates,
Okay.
and we were in Philadelphia, and we were watching this whole thing. And there was a structural engineer, and he was an older guy, and he was very knowledgeable. And this was after the second building was hit.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about the emergency responders going up, and he said, those buildings are going to collapse. Because he said, think about this. He said, the metal is melting. He said, those buildings are going to collapse. What he thought was going to happen, he got it slightly wrong. He thought they were going to topple above where they hit. He thought it was going to fall over.
Right.
Come straight down.
Right.
So he said those top floors it's going to fall over, and they should be getting everybody away from there as quick as they can. He said, that's going to happen.
Right.
And so I said, well, should we warn somebody? And he said, they got to know. He said that there's people up there. They got to know. They got to know what's going on. So
yes.
On the police department and why the firemen are going up there, I have no idea. He said, that's dumb.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. It's like, wow.
Wow. There were so many learnings and heartbreaking learnings from that.
No kidding.
Wow. Well, thank you for part of the rebuilding of that and bringing that knowledge to the chapter, bringing learnings back to the chapter, planning. I'm sure it all goes into planning and, how do we get better? What is our continuous improvement? What can we do?
Yep.
And that is a tragedy that unfortunately nobody wants to learn from that. And I'm purposely not talking about COVID right now. I don't want to bring politics into this conversation in any way. So for anybody who's watching this, that elephant has been removed from the room. If that's okay with you. If you want to talk about it, this is your time. You're more than welcome to.
No, I better not go there.
What do you look forward to seeing the chapter do in the future? We have Lori Gayshock, our amazing current president. Her term is coming to closure. What would you like to see?
I'm not familiar with what's going on with the Rochester chapter at all. So,
Not at all? Not anymore?
no, not at all with the Rochester chapter. I belong to the Orlando chapter and also
Okay.
the Clear Lakes, which is over by Tampa, that
Yep.
one. I
Yep.
belong to those chapters in Florida.
Okay.
But I mean, I still go out and do talks for chapters, so maybe I ought to talk to somebody in Rochester about coming back up there sometime.
We would love to have you. So our snowbird is officially now a southern bird. So you're officially south. When did you, and I apologize if I missed this, when did you leave or permanently make the move away from the north?
Well, I left Rochester in 2001,
Okay.
and that was tied to my two kids getting out of high school.
Uh-huh.
Because remember, Kodak was going downhill.
So your presidency was 2001 to 2002, correct?
Right. So I was working with Bergman Associates. I quit Kodak, and then I think it was like October, November, I moved to Jersey,
Okay.
moving back and forth for the rest of my term.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of traveling back and forth to Rochester.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And in that time frame, you had the volunteer recognition dinner, you had all of the other achievements that you talked about doing as well. When were the 2001, the updates to the chapter's constitution and bylaws? That's quite a bit to accomplish from out of state.
Yeah, but again, it's not one person. We had a pretty
No,
strong board.
it's a
That was the
team.
point. So it was a lot easier because we had a real strong board. They did their jobs. Everybody pitched in. So it worked. It worked.
Wow. Well, where would you like to see these local chapters, now that you've had the opportunity to be in a handful of them, where would you like to see them grow to? What would be your vision for these local chapters?
In my opinion, one of the things that chapters should really do is the networking.
Okay.
To me, that's the biggest value. And it's for two reasons. Number one, just knowledge exchange.
Okay.
And I used to make this comment at chapter meetings when I was a president. I always would ask, who are you sitting with? How many people are sitting with people you work with? And most people would raise their hands, right? And I'd say, well, why? I mean, you see
do
these
all this way to do that.
Why aren't you sitting with people you don't know and
Right.
meet people? That's the whole point of chapter meetings.
Right.
Get out and meet people and expand your horizons.
Yes.
That's the point. And what concerns me is if you go to virtual meetings, and everybody's doing that now because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But my concern is when that goes away, people may still say, well, I prefer virtual. I don't have to drive anywhere. And how do you get the networking out of that? That's what concerns me the most.
That is a challenge.
That's a challenge because again, the knowledge exchange and also the networking helps you in your career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many people find a job through somebody they know that can, mention names, get them in somewhere? That happens all the time.
Right.
And so that's important. Again, pick on Ted Bicuzzi. I mean, again, great guy, but I knew him through PMI. And when I needed that project manager when I was working with PMK for that Emiliani move,
Right.
I knew Ted. Ted was my man. That's
Yeah.
networking. So that's how things happen like that. So my concern for the chapters, and I can tell you right now, Jacksonville, Florida is a good example because I do talks with them every so often.
Okay.
They used to draw 150, 200 people to a chapter meeting. The last few years, they were drawing only 50.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a big drop off. And I blame the board. Because again, the problem is if you're not communicating, if you're not getting good speakers in there, if you're not doing the right things,
Mm-hmm.
chapter interest will drop off. So the board's got to constantly look at it and say, how can we keep the enthusiasm up? What can we do to keep growing the chapter and make it worthwhile for our members?
Okay.
Now, one of the things we also did when I was president, we did a chapter survey. We went out and asked the members, what do you want? How can we do better?
Okay.
And I think that should be done every year. I'm not sure if it still is or not, but it should be a yearly event for a chapter.
And you did that in 95 or 01? Your first or your
I'm
second
trying to
term?
think, I think it was 01 when we put that
Okay.
one in place. I have to go back and look at my notes. I don't recall doing it in 95. I know we did it in 01.
Do you remember what the most common comment was from those surveys?
One of the most common comments was around the networking.
Okay.
You know, they wanted, get to meet people. They wanted the training of activities because that's a good place to network, it's professional development events.
Okay. That makes sense because that is where we meet our local community folks, and also how do we network with the chapters near us,
Yeah.
and we have Buffalo right here, we have Syracuse right here. What about Canada? We're right there, right? Can we reach out to those? I love your ideas. Joe, we've gone through all my questions. The one thing is, I still think there's a through line in there. And so I'm going to come back to you a little bit later and talk about that.
Okay.
I sincerely appreciate your time. It has been a gift for me. I've said this on every interview. It's been like a master class to have this hour to speak with you and the other past presidents I have spoken with, and the rich history and the lessons learned and the amazing stories that you have to tell are so informative and educational for all of us. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. On that note, we'll go ahead and say, have a great summer for right now. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.
Pardon?
I'm going to stop recording. One moment.
Okay. I couldn't quite catch what you're saying there on that.
That's okay. Hang on one second.